When it comes to spiritual matters, there's no right or wrong. Spirituality overrides judgment. There's really only the path to enlightenment. And a trust created by one on the path will serve humanity well by its intention. The universe occurs to me as a fractal of pure energy, a primordial geometric fabric of constant motion, unlimited dimensions, infinite possibility. Pure energy is pure love. It's consciousness, the confluence of all minds, of all life force, of all spirit. From this universal fabric arise constructs such as matter, time, individuality. These things we all enjoy in our journey here on Earth, in the Maya, in the material realm. It's all an illusion of sorts. Universal truth is unfolding. Mystical experience and quantum mechanics reveal things we've never known in the past, or at least that occur to us today in new ways. A universe defined by immeasurable power, infinite possibility, abundance, and love. We now know better than the social experiments of the past. The goal is to begin to correct the path of humanity and align it with natural law. And that's what we teach here. I personally believe the universe rewards spiritually based opportunists. Spiritual opportunism, also known as enlightened self-interest, it means self-interest with an understanding of the true self, that we're all one. I believe we've already entered a spiritual evolution. It's a bigger turning point in history than the Industrial Revolution or the Information Age, one that's now forever changing the nature of life on Earth. I urge you all to establish your private and charitable trust with such thoughts in mind. Set your intentions carefully, set them high. Create as the hand of the Creator, practice enlightened self-interest, manifest love. Join us in our vision of a world that works for all life. I thank you for joining us in this Private Trust webinar series. We love you. We appreciate your support. We look forward to the next series. And until then, know that we're all blessed by the lives we create one day at a time. Thanks for listening.
Hi guys, Paul Seils here from Conscious Investor Network. Today I've got Christian from the guys at GTEN talking about fundamentally what is sovereignty. Christian, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Happy to be here.
It's great. Interesting times that we're living in at the moment, and there's never been a greater conversation for people like moving towards the trends of seeking and learning about sovereignty. And a lot of people have a lot of different subjective interpretations about what sovereignty is, or what it means to live inside the embodiment of sovereignty. Can you talk a little bit more about like sovereignty and what that means and why sovereignty?
Sure. It's a deep rabbit hole of information on the internet, the last couple decades, and so it's nice to actually clarify what it is we're talking about before we go in any of those directions.
Yeah.
So, using the United States as the example, because this is a place that has a different type of interpretation of sovereignty than the rest of the world, and it's also one I'm very familiar with. I'm an American, but when the United States was settled and founded, the people were decided that they would be sovereign. There wouldn't be a king or a queen, a monarch of any sort, who's the sovereign overlord, and that individual has subjects, right? So that separation between the court and the crown and the subjects was an important part of the founding of the United States of America, the country, not the U.S. corporation, but we'll probably get into that later. But so the people made the governments of the states, right? And then they made the Confederacy, which became the nation. And in that case, their representatives made the federal government, right? They chose to have a union. And so what you've got is a real man and woman, what we like to call a free inhabitant. A free inhabitant,
the flesh and blood being.
yeah, exactly. Like, you know, so I'm an infinite and eternal energy being, and I inhabit this body by trust from my, you know, creation by my parents, and I am sovereign in this body, right? Now I can choose to make things. I can make countries and states and corporations that are legal fictions, but legal fictions can't make people. Right? Are we agreed on that? Like, so a reality can make a fiction, but a fiction can't make a reality.
Yeah. So we're talking about contrasting concepts here in relation to, you know, the fiction and what's the polarity of the fiction.
So yeah. So what's real is natural law and sovereign people. And we're taught, you know, when we're very young and we're being put in the box in, you know, early years of education, we're taught that people is a plural of person, but it is not. Okay. A corporation is a person. A trust is a person. A government is a person. And there is such a thing as a natural person, but really, you know, person, the plural is persons. You know, you ever come across that in, you know, in reading, you know, laws, you'll like, why do they call it persons? Why not people? Right? Well, the answer is because they're different words. Person, people is not the plural of person. A person can be can be natural or fiction. A people, I am a people, and we are people. The plural of people. The singular people is people. The plural is people. The singular person is person, and the plural is persons. So they're different words. And so, you know, English language and frankly, all languages have been used against us. The terms have been redefining the meanings for, you know, forever, since the dawn of language. And so language is used as a mechanism of control. But we are people, and I am a people, and we are a people. And people is the term that we want to, you know, want to use when discussing, or free inhabitant is a great one, because it's, at least in the United States of America, it's in the Articles of Confederation. Article 4 says, you know, that a free inhabitant has all the rights and privileges of a citizen without the need to be one. And why is it distinguishing between a free inhabitant and a citizen? Well, the reason is they're different. The free inhabitant is the people. The citizen subject is the person. It's a legal fiction in all capital letters. It is a legal fiction that is a pair of trusts, a foreign situs trust from the birth certificate, and a cesticade trust from the Social Security Administration. Those pair of trusts are created to operate, to birth, BERTH, to birth a commercial vessel into the port of commerce. And that legal fiction, some people call it the straw man. It's called the ens legis. It's the legal fiction person that gets everyone in trouble, because that person is a fiction, not a reality, and it's not you. It's not me. And people think it is. So when they use a driver's license, for example, that's got that all capital letters name on it, that's not you, what you're saying by presenting it as identification is that you are willingly participating and offering to act in the capacity of the legal fiction instead of the people. You are offering, you're putting yourself out there in the capacity of the person, the fiction, and your people or your free inhabitant is willingly doing so. So all the rules change for you. You are no longer sovereign at that time.
I know it's definitely been an interesting journey for me over the last 20, 25 years or something or other. I've pretty much read as much as I can and, you know, got to spend a lot of time with a lot of interesting people in the space and read all the material I could get, you know, just to touch on a few names, people like David Windmiller, Rob Menard, Winston Shrout, had communications with like Mary Croft, Lee Harris in the UK. It's interesting, and like I know that there's a lot of people, and there's been a huge upswing of interest in relation to sovereignty and common law and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, to try to maintain some balance about it, about how it improves the like knowledge that actually improves the quality of our life, and moving in that direction. I mean, fundamentally, I think a lot of people, we're sort of drifting towards this dystopia, really, where, you know, the whole cliche about you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, but moving in that direction where people, do you see a bit of a renaissance coming about people sort of really wanting to learn about what's happening in relation to sovereignty at the moment, or why sovereignty is important, what sovereignty enables? Because it does appear to be the way that we're sort of drifting at the moment, that they want everyone to be completely dependent upon government, etc. That's the model that we seem to be drifting towards, this dystopia.
Yeah. It's a fascinating time because we're drifting in both directions at the same time. In my you know, kind of estimation of it, yes, the dystopian horizon is is bleak and rapidly, you know, rapidly charging toward it, but also there's such an awakening going on, right? So we're seeing this kind of weird push me pull you of both at the same time. And you know, my observation is that the majority of the smartest people on the planet are on the right side of the equation now, which wasn't true 20 years ago. So we're seeing, you know, brilliance on the side of you know, solutions for ourselves, our planet, the other species that, you know, that we're probably mistakenly in charge of as the de facto trustees on this planet. You know, who put us in charge? We're terrible at this, but we're seeing a real push of brilliance in the direction of solving these things. And at the same time, what we're seeing in the mainstream media day to day and in everyday practice in life is this sort of, this encroachment of dystopian bull, you know, that just is really you know, you could get really wrapped up in it and get really depressed about it if you let yourself. And I recommend not letting yourself, because I'm here to tell you, you know, we're very close. I'm very close to the information and the people and the solutions, you know, minded people, and there are just absolute geniuses right now that we work with, that I talk to all the time, that have almost all of our problems solved. We're actually I would say the way I interpret it is that we're either going to have a far more dystopian future than today or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or we're going to have a far more utopian future than today, 10 years or 20 years ago.
Yes.
And it remains to be seen which of those we wind up with.
Yeah.
Right now, it's a total mixture. Right now, it's total push me pull you.
And that's the thing. It's about people choosing sort of which direction and which the polarization of which side, whether they're sort of going into the light or whether they're just sort of drifting off into something else entirely. And
well, the good news is that we don't need, you know, if you've ever read The Tipping Point, we don't need all of society to wake up. We don't. What we need is what I see happening right now, which is the majority of intelligent, influential, and active, the thought leaders and doers
Mm.
to be on the right side of the equation.
Yeah.
And then, the rest of society just needs to be adopters,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So I don't, I tend to be an optimist. We do
Right.
have some big issues, but I think the light is bright.
Mhm. Mm. Absolutely. And it's an interesting time at the moment as well. Here we are to stamp it in 2023, and with what we're dealing with in Australia at the moment, as well as you know um, the indigenous population of Australia has never ceded sovereignty, and there's different constructs of thought in around sovereignty and what that means, and some of the conversations with some of the elders in Australia, some of the indigenous elders, is that some of them are justifiably and rightly upset about like what's happened over the years, and the different concepts about saying that the white guys, their sovereignty finishes at the bottom of their feet. You know what I mean? It's like this sort of polarization as well, and I just really getting sort of super clear on like what it means for all to be able to start moving in that direction in relation to sovereignty, and what it means and what it allows, what it permits, how it empowers people to move into that direction and start learning and embracing to becoming. Because the thing was as well is, I think, with this whole free man, straw man movement, I used to joke about it as well and say that, people in the free man movement used to sort of think everything should be for free. But my comeback to that was that it's another level of responsibility that people need to be able to embrace.
I agree with that.
Mhm.
Yeah, the latter. I mean, so it is, the reason that the social contract is in place the way it is and how it got there and whatever is because people aren't accountable.
Mm.
So it's been taken for the people have had advantage taken of them because they've allowed it to happen, and that's the situation we're in now. But the fact is, if you're going to live as I do, without making minimum contacts in the public forum jurisdiction at all,
Mm.
like you have to be accountable for yourself.
Yeah.
So that means I'm not counting on the social benefits and privileges,
Mm.
but rather standing on facts and truth and living in this way means I have to be accountable 100% for my own actions. If I damage or harm someone or something, then I need to write it,
Yeah.
because there's nothing that's going to come along behind me and fix it.
Mm.
I can't do what persons can do.
Mm.
Persons were invented, corporations really are what I refer to as persons. That part of the whole point of corporations and why they're so big and powerful and is because they can externalize their costs to the public, and maximize their internal profits, right? They can just pollute or destroy or whatever at will, go ahead and run your effluent into the river or whatever it is, without accountability for that,
Mm.
because there's the public that will deal with it at the sewage treatment plant, or the maybe that's not the strongest example, but you get the idea that we're living in a society where we're used to all of the biggest persons, the biggest
Mm.
corporations and entities, just go ahead and externalizing their costs to the rest of us,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So if you're not going to hide behind a corporate shield and it's frankly screwed up laws of the prime directive being bottom line for the shareholders,
Yeah.
right? And instead you're going to live in harmony with those around you as a people instead of a person,
Mm.
then there's an obligation of accountability. That's why at GTEN we teach trusteeship, both of
Mm.
how to set up and administer your own personal world,
Mm.
or I should say
Mhm.
individual world,
Mm.
and also how to operate that out into the public for trusteeship of the planet.
Okay, so this is great. So the next part of the conversation is really around the subjective interpretation of what the word trusteeship means, Christian.
Yeah, well, okay, we touched on it. It's that accountability. So you know, there are a number of ways to look at a trustee. One of them, certainly the one the courts look at, is the trustee is responsible for paying all costs. Okay, which is different from corporate persons and whatever. But trustees have, trustees are accountable to their beneficiaries, to the grantor who granted them the charge, to the position that they accepted as trustee, and to the beneficiaries that the grantor was looking to take care of. So there are three roles that make a trust. Someone needs to be a settler or grantor. That's someone puts something into trust and assigns a trustee who accepts the trust. The trustee is then in charge. The trustee's job is to be of ultimate benefit to the beneficiaries. There are different kinds of trusts. I can go into them if you like, but those are the three basic roles that exist in any public or private trust.
Okay, maybe not so much going into it, but maybe just mentioning on the different types.
Well, they fall in basically two categories. There's statutory and there's private. So anything that's codified or in statute or in legislation or regulations or in the public and part of the legal fiction or legal land, it is what I call a statutory trust. What we teach at GTEN is not that at all. What we teach is private trusts. The trust law that has developed over many years for private trusts is in place mostly so that the super wealthy have a way to operate that's different from the laws that their lobbyists and puppets in government create for the people. So essentially private trusts are so that the wealthy have a different set of rules than you do. Or I do, right? And so when we started GTEN, we were concerned with finding all of the best private trust examples and creating sort of the ultimate trust indenture for a private trust. Indenture is simply the contract of the trust between the grantor and the trustee. And so we worked very hard on that and did an excellent job of it, if I do say. So that the private trust cannot be drawn into the public. In other words, my private trust has no business in any court in the land, in any land, because it has never made minimum contacts into their jurisdiction. So they do not have jurisdiction, period, and they know it. So any attack on my trust is dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. It's never even answered. A complaint is never even answered. So that's, that becomes a critical and key part of any trust web structure, which means that, if that private trust can in turn operate a statutory trust or a corporation or an LLC or anything like that, a public entity of any sort that it wants. But the private trust will never enter into any sort of court. So how do you own nothing but control everything?
Yes.
And which is different from the WF Schwab shit you were talking about earlier about own nothing and be happy. No, that stuff is just that's different. But this is I think it was Nelson Rockefeller, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. One of the Rockefellers,
revealed this this kind of big clue a long time ago, that the key is to own nothing but control everything. So I don't own my own shoes. I don't own my car. I don't own houses. I don't own anything. And the only things I consider to actually have ownership of are things that were given to me that have sentimental value, gifts of sentimental value. Everything else is owned by the trust. So I have no worldly possessions. I live a really nice lifestyle too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as well, that Rockefeller quote, which is really, they're showing their hand in that regard. And that came out some time ago. But I think that's what we do with coaching with clients. And that's the thing, is encouraging them to not have anything in their personal names, because that's the drift towards this dystopia and, assets property, cryptocurrency, precious metals, that sort of thing, not to have, ideally with what they're doing with going towards the digital sort of matrix of, identity systems and that sort of thing, central bank digital currencies, etc., is encouraging people to not have anything, ideally anything that they need to have in their personal names.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. That's a key point of how to operate as a sovereign and outside the public forum jurisdiction. So there are misconceptions. We talked about the straw man or the ens legis earlier. People believe that all caps name is them, and that's how they bank, and that's how they hold ownership to the car and their house, and maybe even a sole proprietorship company. That is the worst way to operate. That is the default de facto way that's presented to people. You're taught in elementary school, or probably, I guess, middle school, how to balance your own checkbook and go get a savings account, and like all these things that are just indoctrinated with. And the truth is that when you do that, you need to understand what entity you're using, what hat you're wearing. When you do that, you're using the legal fiction trust that was created from the birth certificate. You do not have legal title to that trust. You have what's called the usufruct. You have the use of that. Okay. You have equitable title. You do not have legal title. So that's how, your car can be impounded, your house can be repossessed, your through foreclosure. That's how your body can be thrown in jail. If you use that entity as your operating entity, that all caps name almost looks like you name, that is the weakest position to be standing in our modern society. So you're much better off using a corporation, which has all the same functionality as that, but it's something you've chosen and you've established, rather than something the government established for you.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't use the all caps name person that was assigned to me at birth for anything at all, ever. And so, that person, if I get a piece of mail, I don't care if it's, Walmart junk mail or something from the IRS or SEC. If I get a piece of mail addressed to that all caps name, I know who I am. I know who I'm not. I know what roles I'm willing to play and what roles I'm not willing to play. I am not willing to play the role of the authorized representative of that public trust in the all caps name that looks kind of like me. I'm not going to do it. I know it's not me. So I return it to sender every time. I don't care what it is. If anyone comes looking for that person, well, that person doesn't live here. That person doesn't work here. That person has nothing to do with me anymore. And so I do not accept the authorized representative role of that trust that was created, on and for me, but really for the government. So yeah, very, very important. So you have these other options that work just as well, even better, in fact, that don't look like you. Like, you can go start a corporation or LLC, you can go start a public trust or private trust. You get all kinds of options of entities that you can work with. And frankly, 99% of the time people use their all caps in the name. But those of us who know better don't.
Absolutely. And I think you're alluding to the corporation stuff before as well. And anyone that hasn't watched or listened to the documentaries that came out, I remember being very impactful at the time. The Corporation, and also the Corporation 2, suggested viewing for anyone wanting to get a little bit more information and background on corporations and the money systems, etc. as well. If you get a chance to watch that, I highly recommend that people do.
Yeah, cool.
So you guys teach people about getting educated and informed through a platform. I might do a screen share here really quickly as well, if you can share a little bit about what you do, how you work, and you're going to provide a link for us as well that I can share in the description of this video so that people can get an access, and there's a deal, etc. as well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit before we got started here about the possibility of setting up sort of an Australian study group, among other things. This is pretty. I would say that all the information on our site is good for you, and most of it, all the principles apply anywhere.
Okay, because that's the other question I was going to
globe.
lead to as well. Is a lot of people go, this technology only relates and only works in the US or whatever. Like, how
Yeah,
does
that's not the case. So what? Yeah, you know, like I said, all of it is good for you, and all of it is at least fundamentally applicable everywhere. There are some detailed courses on here, you know, that are the details are American, because that's what I know best.
Sure.
And what we know best. But you know, and so in some cases, you know, you may need to go find the equivalents in Australian law or UK law or Canadian law or whatever, but they're there. I mean, all these countries kind of work the same. So all the private trust stuff is applicable anywhere, because it is private jurisdiction, it is private law, and it works anywhere, and you could connect it into any Western world, at least a Western world public system, and work with it. So all of the private trusteeship stuff is universally applicable, right? And then, you know, for example, we do a course on how to fast track to strong corporate credit. That's US based. Like, I mean, this is how if you're, you know, in United States corporate credit, you know, how do you get, you know, in 2 years to, you know, better corporate credit than you would ever have personal credit, you know, but it's totally US based, but the principles, right, still apply for other jurisdictions. So even the ones that aren't, you know, universal in content, the principles still do apply, and you can get just kind of a, you know, you take a little leap of understanding and go look, and how do you know, I don't know what credit reporters you have in Australia, you know, so the examples I give in that course aren't going to, you know, they're not going to they're not going to be the ones that you're going to use, but the principles are the same in all the courses. The principles are the same.
The principles are the same. The organizations, how they operate, you know, like Dun and Bradstreet, that sort of thing, they all sort of operate the same as well. You know what I mean?
Okay, great. So, you know, all I can say is that yeah, all of the private trust stuff is universal, and the more specific things like that course, you know, we also have a tax related course, or a couple of them actually, you know, that relate to the IRS. The principles in those courses also apply in any other Western world jurisdiction. And, you know, you might just have to go look, you know, what your own laws are. Like, looking at the examples that we give, you'd have to say, well, okay, where would that show up then in Australian law or UK law or whatever?
Okay, so people that are interested in getting further information, I'm just in the portal here for members, etc. How does that work? Can you explain, Christian, how that works for people that are interested?
Yeah, basically what we've created is a wheel of spokes of courses. So there are a number of courses here that each one works independently as a complete course on a topic, and then together they all, you know, like spokes on a wheel, they create the complete picture of how to operate as a sovereign. It is the way I live, and you know, documented. And so what we've got is these were live seminars. In most cases, except for a couple, they were webinars. And they cover a topic completely,
yes,
but they also add to each other, right? So they're all in the can. You can go through them at your own pace. The way to sign up for your audience, I would say, is let's put a link, like we talked about. Let's put a link or two in the description.
Yes,
that gives them a discount just for your audience. And if they use those links, then you know, they will will know they came from you. But anyway, I've got well, we've got a website here that is pretty self-explanatory. The best, most often first signups with us are either what we call the new member special or the whole enchilada.
Mhm.
And the new member special is basically a 2-for-1 of the private trust education course and trust web structures. Those two courses together teach you the trusteeship piece.
Mhm.
Or the whole enchilada is our most popular. If people don't start with it, they always upgrade to it. Almost always. Almost all of our members do all of our courses.
Mhm.
I guess we've created a bit of an addiction here, because
Mhm.
it really, once you get started, you'll see why. But yeah, so you can go through them at your own pace. The whole enchilada is a big savings. Is it like
Yes.
like half off kind of savings.
Mhm.
But they're but however you get started, get started, and we'll put the links in here so that people can easily find them. You can go straight to the website and do it there, but we'll give you a discount in the
Mhm.
description.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, I appreciate the information anyway. Is there anything further that you wanted to be able to add in closing for in relation to, providing remedy into moving forward, etc. And I think we've got to be, we've been through a lot in the last couple of years, individually and collectively, and we're super present to what's not working, and we're always engaged in conversation for remedy and solution and what's possible. It's time to have the conversation about what we're creating, not what's happened or happening. Anything you'd like to be able to say to speak into that at all?
Well, sure. You're right. These are scary times. Like, this is we're witnessing, in my opinion, the death of capitalism, the desperate grips of a fading control system from the what we used to call the the would-be rulers, and now now we call the the ones that were. But I think it, as scary as it is, there's also a flip side of that that's really positive.
Mm.
And these times are described in lots of literary texts and religious texts
Mhm.
as the end times, or the apocalypse.
The Book of
But
Revelations.
yeah,
Mm.
let's just for a moment pick that apart, because do you know, actually, I'm putting you on the spot here, do you know
Mhm.
actually what the definition of apocalypse is?
Well, I think it's a little bit subjective, but from what I believe is it's a pulling back of the veil.
Yes, sir. Most people
Mhm.
don't know that. So
Mm.
you're absolutely dead on.
Yeah,
The
it's not necessarily a destruction or an implosion, but a
it's not
revealing,
Armageddon.
a revealing.
Yeah, it's not Armageddon. It's not death and destruction. It is the lifting of the veil to reveal what's true.
Mm.
So thank God we're in the apocalypse, right? About
Mhm.
friggin' time.
We're here for this.
This, yeah, and yeah, we're here for this. And so what's scary, I think, in these times that we weren't used to, like when I was a kid, right? But now things have changed. What's scary is we are seeing it's the man behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz. We're seeing the puppeteers and their actions and their dirt and the incompetence and the
Mm.
cover-ups and the bullshit and and we're just thinking, wow. And now they're trying to bring in central bank digital currencies, and so they're like, what, what, they're not controlling us enough? What is going
Mhm.
on here? Digital ID, all these things that are so dystopian, but they go hand in hand with this lifting of the veil,
Mm.
right? As the veil lifts, the ruling elite get really uncomfortable
Yeah.
and really brazen.
Mm.
And I mean, gosh, we haven't even mentioned COVID, but like really brazen in disgusting ways.
Mhm.
And and we've all been through that recently, so like we just see the ugly side of what we thought was a better world.
Mhm.
And it's been there all along. So really, when we think things are becoming more dystopian, what's really happening is that the veil is lifting, and we're able to now see things for what they really are, so that we can address them. And because that's happening, the intelligent conversation on the planet is going through the roof. Like, it's just like, now, I mean, it's, yeah, okay, we're having to address these problems, but these problems aren't new
No.
at all. They're, the grip is tightening, is how it feels, because there's a desperation among those who have been playing this really big game and winning. Right now, they're starting to lose, and that's where this comes from. That's why there's saber rattling for World War III. That's why they, like, it's just like, it did anything like that to keep control.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that loss of ultimate power. The power is like slipping out of the hands of the world's biggest assholes. So I think that's positive, and yeah, it's scary. It is totally scary, but we had to wake up sometime.
Yeah.
And here it is. And we're, like you said, we're here for this, and there's brilliance on our side. And I figure it's a big game, but it's a, I'm here to play the game.
Absolutely. And we also have love on our side as well, Christian.
That's all there is, my friend. That's what everything is, a subset of love. Even good and evil are not opposites. Everything is made of infinite potential, which its only true expression is love.
Absolutely. Beautiful. It's been wonderful to talk to you. I'm sure we'll check in over a period of time and get more information. Thank you for what you and the guys at GTEN are doing. Thank you for providing the link and giving a discount for people that want further information. Like we said, we'll post that in the description. And thank you for what you guys are doing, being engaged in the conversation for the solutions and what's possible for the future.
Absolutely, my friend. Let's get an Australian GTEN study group going. Let's get a little army of researchers there working together to figure out Australia, because it's a scary little petri dish you got going on over there. It's been a police state for a long time, and it's that grip is turning ugly as an experiment.
Absolutely. And the thing that's a concern at this point in time as well is there's moves afoot moving forward that people are concerned about the things, the same as US citizens are required to pay tax wherever they work in the world. If they head off to Dubai and that sort of thing, or any of those areas, which I've spent some times in those other jurisdictions, but there's moves afoot at the moment. They want to change it so that Australian citizens, also born as an Australian citizen under citizenship, also will be required to pay tax, irrespective of wherever they're based in the world moving forward. So there's definitely a push for this conversation, for people to get educated for themselves moving forward. So thank you for providing the education and the conversation about that moving forward.
Your viewers will want to take a look at our course called Living Free of the System. I won't say a whole lot more about it on here because, anyway,
well, this is stuff this is stuff that they don't want people to be educated. They don't want to a massive, well-informed, educated individuals that don't need governments anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's right. And I personally am not a big fan of fueling the police state and the military industrial complex and big agriculture and all these lobby groups and all their greasing all their buddies' palms and all this. So I'm not a huge fan of taxes.
Absolutely. And following that along as well in relation to, the concept of being sovereign or becoming sovereign is also doing no harm.
Absolutely. I'll just give you an example. When I had a driver's license, I used to drive my, BMW like a bat out of hell. And, when I got rid of the driver's license, I bought an SUV and started driving, started traveling at a normal, safe and respectable speed. It's a simple example, but once it's all I realize who I am and that it's all on me,
Yes.
and that I'm not begging for, I'm not applying for benefits and privileges, and I'm not looking to beat the system or whatever. I am operating as a trustee in my own, on my own 2 feet on the land, as a free inhabitant, and I have a responsibility. Then we start to behave more like, the native cultures of our, 2 continents. We start to realize that we are the ones that we've been waiting for.
Absolutely. On that note, I might leave it there. I'll drop the link in the description for anyone to get further information, to go to your website to get the discount, etc. And let's keep the conversation moving forward. Christian from GTEN, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ah, the government. It loves you and wants to keep you safe and well. It even wants to make paying taxes, fines, and court costs easier for you. How? Well, you'll need to meet your straw man. He was born the same day you were. He looks like you, has the same name, and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even paid his parking tickets or taxes. The worst part? He's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate, a legal personality, or legal fiction, is created with the same name to confuse little old you into thinking it's you. So, there is a human you and a paper you, or as it's commonly known, a straw man. So when it seems like government officials, court clerks, or the police are speaking English, they aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to make you agree to verbal and written contracts without even knowing about it, all spun from Black's Law Dictionary. For example, when the police say, "Do you understand?" you'll say, "Yes." What they are really saying is, "Do you stand under our authority?" Oops-a-daisy, you've just created a verbal contract with them. Oh, you clever government. Did you know that whenever you register something, you are handing over title to the person you register it with? That's right. Whenever you register something with the government, they assume it belongs to them. Registered your car? Super! Now you are the registered keeper of your vehicle, and the government can crush it when you don't pay your, straw man's taxes. Expecting a new bundle of joy? Well, then you need to register your little darling with a birth certificate. Then they can start the process all over again and create a new straw man for your little one. Isn't that great? So when Junior grows up, he'll be able to generate revenue just like you have. When you notify on your baby by signing the birth certificate, your child becomes a ward of state, and if the government doesn't like what you're doing, they'll assume it's okay to take the child away, or make new rules for things they don't like. Not enough school? Smacking your child? Shouting too loudly? Then it's off to social services for the little one. When you get a bill, it's sent to you, but belongs to your straw man, not you. That's why bills, fines, and summons start with Mr., Mrs., or Ms. Sometimes you'll see your surname in capitals, just like on a gravestone. That's because your straw man is dead, and just a silly piece of paper, created before you could comprehend or even consent to it. When you go to court, you represent your straw man, so you, the human, take on any costs, fees, taxes, and fines involved for the straw man. The human you doesn't even need to pay them. But you made a contract with the court by appearing on behalf of your legal personality or straw man, just like the government knew you would. Confused? Well, don't worry. The government doesn't want you to know anyway. If you knew, you'd stop paying things like council tax and parking tickets. Because when you go to court, you are representing your straw man. You are you, alive and made of flesh and blood. Your straw man, or legal personality, is a piece of paper created from your birth certificate. And you think it's you. What a silly Billy. Get informed and get real.